And I guess before I come to you, Rune, I guess what it did, Jeff, is it kind of transformed the whole way that we thought about internal mobility. So internal mobility before was, you're working in a job effectively. You either get the tap on the shoulder, or you apply for a job internally and you move to another job with a different manager. Whereas the talent marketplace has built in some much more flexibility around that, allowing people to take on additional work, additional projects that support their interests, as you said, Jeff, but also relate to the skills that they've got, which they either are already using in their current role, but maybe not using as well. So it kind of creates that. It made it a bit more fluid.
I think that's right. And let me add one comment here. It is a shift. It's not just an acceleration. We talk a lot about acceleration and shifts. The talent marketplace is a shift. It is a different mindset. It is a different way of operating talent and skills and projects and jobs and careers in an organization. And because it is a shift, because it is a mindset shift, one of my favorite quotes, and David and you probably know I love quotes, it's a quote from Albert Einstein, who said, "You can't use an old map to explore a new world." And I don't think you can expect our legacy HR systems to provide the maps for the shift to talent marketplaces. And it is a different way of thinking. It is a different way of operating. It's new technology. It's new processes. And of course, none of us would be surprised that in order to make that kind of shift, there's a lot of transformation and change management involved, because we're not used to operating in a marketplace way of working. We're used to HR and careers being administratively managed and administratively driven. So that combination of tech and process and change is absolutely central to what we've seen over the last couple of years as well.
And Jeroen, I'm going to turn to you a bit for the practitioner perspective. If you put your former hat on, during your time at Unilever, as Jeff has already said, you were one of the early adopters of the talent marketplace with Gloat, and actually helped them shape the direction of the product as well, particularly in the early days. How did the talent marketplace support the business and people strategy at Unilever prior to 2020? We'll talk about the pandemic in a minute, and then during the most intense phases of the pandemic.
Yeah, thanks. Actually, when I met Worky for the first time, around the same time as Jeff met them, they pitched to us and say, "Hey, we've got here new technology, and we're helping external recruiting to become a little bit smarter." And I started to ask myself a question: but what problem do you actually solve for? You are taking out the middleman, which is helpful. You bring costs down, very helpful. But the big problem is actually that you need to develop people. And why don't you bring therefore your technology inside the company? Because then you really solve for a big problem, which is how can we faster up and reskill people? How can we give them more new experiences? And we got to the understanding ourselves that we needed to democratize the opportunities that we were giving to people. And that was something very different than taking out a middleman. In a way, you took out a middleman called HR and a middleman called the line manager, but we wanted to create visibility so that people could follow their dreams, but not only follow their dreams, but also building the skills that they require to stay relevant for the company. And then this idea of a talent marketplace was born, and we started to develop that from MVP, helped to scale it up in Unilever in several stages. And then the pandemic came. And in the pandemic, we realized as Unilever that we really needed to step up agility, because parts of the business did not have a business at all. Think about the part of the business that serves the restaurants. They were really closing down. And other parts of the business, think about hand hygiene, they couldn't keep up with the demand. And the demand was actually life-saving. So then we raised a campaign to support his agility to shift resources in the company. And the campaign was called "Raise a Hand When You Need It and Lend a Hand When You Have Availability," when you're temporarily without work that you find meaningful whilst we're trying to weather the storm of this pandemic. So all of a sudden we saw the potential, the real potential of the talent marketplace, because it was an enabler for agility, an enabler to shift resources and keep people relevant much faster than you could otherwise do. And at the same time, you could develop people. So it was a beautiful marriage of business and people that could both benefit from a talent marketplace. And I think those are the dynamics that Jeff was talking about in a much more sophisticated way that I could do it. That really helped Unilever to make a big step into becoming more agility without adopting fully new ways of working, but just creating the mindset that should go where the biggest value of the company is.
In this series, we will be speaking to a range of senior leaders who are pushing a data-driven and digital HR agenda. Make sure that you subscribe via your podcast app of choice and also via our YouTube channel for free and regular interviews with the digital HR leaders of the future.